Association of Canada. Every request for assistance is a promise. A promise to serve, to render aid where the need is greatest, to protect our communities in their darkest hours. For every smile restored, for every hug rekindled, for every sigh of relief, there's a story of perseverance, skill, and unmatched determination. While answering the call as responders, they are also our neighbors, our friends, our family. Giving their all and working together to achieve a common goal. To the over 9,000 ground search and rescue members that make up the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada. Canada sees you, appreciates you, and stands proud because of you. We are proud, strong and united. The humanitarian workforce of the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada brings us all together in a united front and in a time of need. Your valor and sacrifice make us all safer, and makes Canada stronger. Thank you for responding to the call.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. And welcome to our very first Zoom series on exploring the heart of SARVAC's Humanitarian Workforce Program. And essentially what we will be doing today is we'll be having a nice info session with some of our HWF team. Now this call, this info session, as you may have seen it, is devoted to those who are interested in the HWF program, ground search and rescue volunteer members, and those who are just interested in learning more about the Humanitarian Workforce Program. Essentially, what we'll be doing today is having a discussion about, exploring the pivotal roles, inspiring missions, and profound impact of our volunteers across Canada. And more or less, you are here to learn more about how SARVAC prepares for and responds to emergencies to ensure community safety and resilience. Essentially, some of the highlights that we'll be talking about today include operational readiness, deployment and response, mental wellness support, training exercises, community focus. A bit more about who SARVAC is we're a key player in Canada's emergency response, offering services from search and rescue to disaster relief. For those who are perhaps new to search and rescue or ground search and rescue in Canada, we represent 9,000 ground search and rescue volunteers who respond to inland water and land search and rescue calls. A bit of housekeeping about the recording, and more or less the recording that will be provided afterwards. Note that the recording of SARVAC's Humanitarian Workforce Program will only be accessible to individuals who have registered for or attended this meeting. Additionally, upon request, the recording may be provided to ground search and rescue affiliated teams. I understand that this weekend, Saturday, there are perhaps a lot of ground search and rescue volunteers who are interested in learning more and perhaps are busy at this time. So the recording may be provided to those individuals or those teams and personnel unless otherwise specified. I would like to begin with a very brief land acknowledgement and start by acknowledging that Indigenous people have been the original caretakers of this land we call Canada, and it's important for all of us as Canadians to recognize this and prioritize reconciliation within Indigenous communities. So if we can just take a very quick minute and acknowledge those in every community who hold those traditional Indigenous knowledge, and let's support Indigenous leaders of all ages, young and old, who deserve the ongoing support of all Canadians to create equal opportunities for everyone of this land. And to us, reconciliation means learning from our history, listening to Indigenous perspectives, and working together for a better future that includes everyone. And in that said, we're very interested in where you are joining us today across Canada. We'd love to launch a few polls and learn a bit more about you as Canadians. Having said that, we have a few polls, including where are you joining us from today? And are you currently a ground search and rescue volunteer in Canada? So I'll give you guys a quick few seconds to fill this out for us. So it looks like there's a large portion of people joining us. Are you a member of the 9,000 volunteers? Are you within the community of the ground search and rescue community? And by the looks of it, we've got a fat chunk of volunteers, a whole bunch from Ontario, a whole bunch from Alberta. And I apologize for those who perhaps were unable to catch this poll, but we will then be launching another poll to find out more about our participants and where you all are coming from. Now, more specific to why you're all here today to learn more about the HWF program, we're very interested in your familiarity with the program. Do you have experience with disaster response in Canada? In addition, are you concerned about the increase of potential for disasters as we've witnessed in the past, perhaps from floods, fires, etc.? So it looks to be we have a great deal of individuals who are somewhat familiar. Close to 57% of you are familiar with the Humanitarian Workforce Program, which is great to hear. Over 56% of you have experience with disaster response in Canada, and 97% of you are concerned about the increase of potential for disasters, such as floods and fires. So I'll share these with everyone. So again, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Saturday. Hopefully you weren't up too late, as late as I was watching the Aurora Borealis last night. Again, we are happy to be joined today with our Humanitarian Workforce Program Director, Mr. Paul French, in addition to Janelle Coltez, our President for the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada, who will be kickstarting off the presentation for us with an overview. A bit more just to conclude on the housekeeping, we will be saving questions for the very end. And if you have any further questions for the HWF team, we will ask that you fill out the contact form on our website, either on the HWF website, which will be shared later on, in addition to the SARVAC website, which we will share links in our chat. Aside from that, Ms. Janelle Coltez, if you will kick us off.
Hi, thank you, Scott. So welcome, everybody. Totally agree with the Aurora Borealis last night. It was all over Canada, so hopefully everybody had a chance to see it, even in our little town close to London, Ontario. So that was pretty cool to see. I just wanted to take a moment, first of all, to thank all of you, not just for being here in the middle of a day on the Saturday, but also for the fact that we're wrapping up our Emergency Preparedness Week. And I hope you've seen some of the posts that are out there, some of the thank yous that are out there. There's a lot that's been going on this week all throughout the different agencies that are all involved with search and rescue, but many thanks for everything that you're doing day to day, because without you, our volunteers, we wouldn't be where we are. So we're hoping that some of the information today is useful to you, but also that we can continue to spread the word throughout all of our teams across Canada about what the humanitarian workforce is, what it is that we're doing, and what it is that we're hoping to strive towards as well. So first of all, as Scott mentioned, we do have over 9,000 volunteers across Canada, And that is on approximately 300 teams. So if you think of your own teams within your own province or territory, and then multiply that by all the provinces and territories, that's where we are really a large force when it comes to the search and rescue volunteers from all across Canada. With regards to the humanitarian workforce program itself, one thing we want you to always keep in mind is that the program includes other agencies. So humanitarian workforce is a term that we're using. Today we'll be talking about SARVAC's role within that workforce, but the humanitarian workforce itself does include the Red Cross, Salvation Army, St. John Ambulance, and just this week, Team Rubicon was added to the humanitarian workforce as well. So if you hear that terminology, and especially if it's online or anything out in the media, it does refer to all of those agencies working together. So it's not a term that's specific just to SARVAC. But today, we will be talking about SARVAC's role within the workforce and what we have gained from it, what we are looking to strive towards doing, and some of those next steps we'll be taking as volunteers across Canada. So last year, just for everyone's awareness, we did have teams in BC, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Ontario that were all active with floods. So flood responses that were, that's where the teams were out helping with what was needed, a lot of wellness checks, a lot of things that emergency management wise, we were able to utilize our members, but that's within skill sets that we have already. And within the fires last year, we had teams that were active in assisting with those as well. And that was in Alberta and BC and Quebec and Northwest Territories. Again, things that are well within skill sets that we already have. So this is something we've been speaking about a lot at a lot of different levels. And there's a lot that our members can already do when it comes to general labor, wellness checks, looking at the first aid side, the rescue side, even things like geomatics. We've had some of our agencies or some of our associations be able to map where fires are, for example. That's something that not all of our other partner NGOs are able to do. So it sets us apart, and it's something that it's well within our skill sets that we have already as search and rescue volunteers. Another side of it is that the incident command structure, the logistics, communications, those are all things that we're already doing within any of our searches that we're doing. And using those same skills when it comes to emergency management events is something that we're always striving towards. What we're hoping to do going forward, and what we'll be talking about today as well, is to build on those, because we have so many people across SARVAC that are ready to drop everything, head out and go help no matter where it is in Canada. I know from the just the email side, I get messages personally as soon as there is anything that happens in Canada. It's I have people saying I'm ready to go, I'm willing to go. And if I'm getting some of those messages personally, I know that that number of people willing to go is multiplied many times over if we're looking at all of our teams across Canada. So just the fact that we have so many people willing to drop everything, head out for a week or two, whatever it happens to be, those are kinds of things that really it shows how dedicated our members are and how much we are able to help when it comes to some of these climate events, any type of emergency across Canada. So there's a lot in the media right now about the wildfire season. I know that last year was terrible, and this year is not looking like it's going to be a lot better. So that's something that's top of mind for our association as we're heading into this fire season this year. And again, it's building on what can we do? What can we do within the skill sets that we have already? On top of that, SARVAC has a lot of other different projects that we've been working on and things that are ongoing, national, in scope. And we're looking at things like our accreditation and certification process for our team leader program, our basic searcher program, our search manager program. We do have national standards for those levels of certification now. And that's something that we're just starting with rolling out the search manager level. But we've been working on that for many, many years. And to have that kind of certification comes in as a very important point when we're looking at deploying across Canada as well. So if you have someone who's a team leader in PEI, you know that that same qualification is the same across in BC, for example. So things like that, that we've been able to put together for SARVAC. SARVAC is also very involved, as you know, and taking the lead on Adventure Smart. So that's another national scale program that is across Canada, offered everywhere. Something that we are looking to highlight what we can do there as well. So we have a lot of other projects. We have a lot of other things on the go all the time, not just humanitarian workforce. But this one for us is one that we're hearing about more and more because our teams are already being called for some of these different events. So one thing that we've been stressing, any meetings, any media that we're speaking to, anything like that, we're looking at the kinds of things that our teams are already doing, but we want to be able to augment that response. So if we have teams that are out doing wellness checks, they're called out, it's door to door, there's a flood, and then there's a hurricane, and then there's something else that's been going on. Eventually those teams that are helping, even if it's regional or local, they start to get worn out. So what we're looking to do is to be able to pull from members who are coming from different provinces or territories to be able to increase that response capability, so that our own members are not getting worn out. It's something that we're actively striving to improve on how that process will occur. So if we do get a call, we want to be able to send people as quickly and efficiently as possible. And I can tell you that we have made such great strides even in the last couple of years, from the type of organization that we had for these national scale calls from a couple years ago till now is like night and day. So even in just a very short period of time, we've had a very large change. And it's something that I'm very proud of, everything that SARVAC has been able to get to, but I can also see, and what we'll share today, some of what is coming up. And I think that's some of the most exciting part, because we have so many things that are actively being worked on and actively being improved on, so that we can have as best of a response as possible across Canada. So on that note, I will pass it over to Paul French. And again, thank you everyone for being here today. I hope that you do have some questions. That's what we're here for, and that we'll be able to get through everything as we go through our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janelle. Thanks to Scott as well for facilitating today's session. And thanks to everybody who's joining us live here for the Zoom call. And also throw a thanks out to those who may join us in the future. We had an awful lot, as Scott had noted earlier in the presentation, reach out and say, I'd love to be able to attend. Will there be a recording of this made available later on? And certainly we're taking advantage of that and want to get a message out to as many of the GSAR volunteers as possible. So thank you for taking time out today. Excuse me, I know it's the weekend. I know there's a lot on the go. Happy early Mother's Day to the mothers and mother figures out there. Mother's Day is coming up tomorrow. And also, just with the the busyness that's on the go with the fire season. I know people are busy preparing and whatnot. So again, just thank you for taking the time out to attend today's session, either live or if you're viewing the recording. Thanks for being here. So this is a great opportunity for us to share with you an overview of SARVAC's Humanitarian Workforce Program. And to start this off, we sort of just wanted to give a bit of an overview and context with regards to why does this program exist? And in a way, I feel, we're preaching to the choir here, is that many of us Canadians know that the number, frequency, and intensity of disasters, whether being natural or human induced, is certainly increasing in frequency and severity throughout the country. Some areas certainly are definitely getting hit more than others, but impacts such as the COVID-19 pandemic certainly have a broad-reaching impact on everybody. So whether it's wildfires, spring flooding, or extreme weather events, our communities are being impacted on a regular basis. Within the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in flooding. And again, this is not just in one area. These are in all parts. Flooding risks affect us all equally. Some big floods in the Sumas Prairie there a couple of years ago, also in the Ottawa-Gatineau region, New Brunswick, over in the Maritimes, and also some of our northern communities as well. Flooding impacts are huge. They spread really quickly, but there's a lot that we can do to help support. And I'm sure some of you here, maybe on this call or there watching this recording, have been part of a flood response within your local municipality or your local region of response. Other impacts include a growing, what I would say, a growing increased trend in tornadoes. And these, spin up fast, pardon the pun, and they do a lot of damage in a short amount of time, especially, in the prairie regions and in the Ottawa region and throughout Ontario, really. We've seen an increase in tornadoes over the last number of years. As I spoke to earlier, COVID had a far-reaching impact, pretty much from coast to coast to coast. I don't think anybody escaped it, and or I should say any geographical area. And it had large impacts on our day-to-day lives, whether that was volunteer, work, pleasure. But again, GSAR folks are there to support in many different efforts. Additionally, extreme weather events, hurricanes, Hurricane Fiona. The most recent biggest impact comes to mind for me is the Nova Scotia snowstorm event that took place just a few months ago out on the east side of Nova Scotia, around the Pictou and Cape Breton Regional Municipality region. Again, a bunch of snow over 2 or 3 day time span. It really just made everything come to a standstill really quickly. So again, supporting there from the GSAR community by way of communication, geometric support, just being able to access people and make sure that they were okay and doing wellness checks. And for today, obviously, this summer, the cyclical season last year was a record-breaking year when it comes to wildfires. GSAR members from all across the country responding in a local capacity or provincial capacity to support the wildfire efforts in their area. And we thank you for your service. But again, we're sort of looking down the barrel of what can be or what may be, the most impactful year again. And I hope we don't get to that, but the conditions are right. The water levels are low, the snowpack is low. And the grounds and the woods is very, very dry. It's wildfire season is already underway. It has been for months or so. And I'm sure many are monitoring that as we go along. And certainly, as we have in years previous, there are supports that we can provide to assist the agencies having jurisdiction when it comes to wildfire support. Just a final bit of context around the Humanitarian Workforce Program and how it got started. It was initially announced back in 2020 under the Government of Canada's Fall Economic Statement. They announced $150 million over a span of 2 years, so that was $84 million a year, to support the Canadian Red Cross and other NGOs in enhancing and maintaining the humanitarian workforce to provide surge capacity into these types of emergencies that we have just discussed. Now, a question I get a lot of time, and before it gets to the chat, I will say that 84 million on a yearly basis, split 4 ways, is about $20 million. Each of these four organizations didn't get that much money. There was actually 3 pots of funding. One was used for response, and then the 2 main pots. One was used for response, funding responses of the humanitarian workforce, and the other was used for building capacity, which is the projects that we're running currently, either through phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3. Janelle had noted that we're not alone in the humanitarian workforce program, and that we are joined by our colleagues and our other NGO organizations, the Salvation Army, Canadian Red Cross, St. John Ambulance, and just recently announced, just 2 days ago, I believe, would be Team Rubicon will be joining the humanitarian workforce program as well. So what is our goal? When we joined the humanitarian workforce program through Public Safety Canada, our goal was to increase the capacity for GSAR members to respond to these all hazard response networks. And that was from, again, coast to coast to coast. As I sort of referenced a little earlier, is that, this is not new. Our teams have had a long history responding to disasters in their local regions on a team level, or responding through mutual aid and helping other teams in whether it comes flooding or helping with evacuations of wildfires or due to wildfires, wellness checks after a hurricane blows through or whatnot. So all sorts of the 300 teams across Canada have been doing that for quite some time. And as always, they will remain to support their local communities as much as they can. However, what we are trying to do, or what we have done and what we aim to build on, is to be able to build a national level response, so that you're not just relying on your local team or your surrounding teams, but that we're breaking down the provincial and territorial borders in an effort to provide surge capacity to these major national large-scale incidents that are going on. So if there's a wildfire in Alberta, we can bring people from outside provinces, whether it be the Maritimes, central Canada, and around the prairies, and even on the west coast, and bring them into Alberta, where they can act in a role as a GSAR volunteer through the standardized training that they have, either through searcher, team leader, or SAR manager, and provide support to the local members who are on the ground. Now, I will say that this system is a little lagged, because it's designed to utilize the local resources first, and then once they become overtasked or overstretched, then that's where the national level support comes in. So I know sometimes we're all sort of waiting on the edge of our seats, but just understand that the system is designed to utilize local response efforts first. To start the process, as some of you may know who are familiar with SARVAC, excuse me, as some who are familiar with SARVAC know that SARVAC is an association of associations. So we're there to support and implement programs which support the GSAR community in whole. So we never had that sort of operational aspect before. So in order to begin the process, we started by developing these 2 key documents, one being the Emergency Management Governance for Search and Rescue, or EMGOSAR, and that's sort of our key governance piece. And then second to that is the National Search and Rescue Operations Concept, and that was designed to is sort of a playbook from start to finish, from when you get a call for a request for assistance right to the completion of an after action review. So looking at the excuse me, looking at the EMGOSAR in a little bit more detail, it breaks down and highlights the principles of the humanitarian workforce program, the organizational structure, whether that was operationally or non-operationally, because there are non-operational roles through the SARVAC board of directors and whatnot within the deployment. Also highlighted the roles and responsibilities, and also external stakeholders who are involved within the process. And I will highlight here that again, the call out here are for the individuals, volunteers, and not necessarily a team, so that when you respond as part of the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program, you're responding as a national capacity, and that everybody is coming together as one big team to provide support to whatever incident it is we're responding to. Looking at the NSOC, or the National Search and Rescue Operation concept, again, that's that, in-depth playbook. So it's organized through 10 phases of a deployment. So it starts at the notification, runs through the survey, alert, formation, mobilization, deployment, tasking, demobilization, on-site debrief, and after-action report. So it runs through all those 10 phases, and a little bit further, we'll talk about sort of guidance documents that spins off from the NSOC. But again, it's that comprehensive playbook that walks through every phase of a potential deployment of SARVAC's Humanitarian Workforce Program. And a little later, I'll show you all where you can access all of this documentation. Everything here today is accessible to you online right now, and I'll show you how to access all that a little later. So our response offering was built around 9 predefined capabilities, and these are all capabilities that are founded within the GSAR standard, as Janelle spoke to earlier, with regards to our standards certification program. One being the general labor, wellness checks, safety and travel management, geomatic support, first aid, search and rescue, obviously, operational communications, logistics, and incident management. So these are the fields in which the capabilities, that we've defined as being able to support in. Some are a little broader than others. When it comes to the general labor force, that may be a little broader than looking at operational communication support. However, these are all activities that GSAR teams have provided either through their local search and rescue effort or through sort of a more non-traditional role when it comes to emergency response and disaster response. I spoke to it briefly just a few slides ago, but pairing well with the National Search and Rescue Operations concept, or the NSOC, is the standard operating procedures. This was no small task. These SOPs were developed in phase 2 of the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program. And for each of the 10 phases of the NSOC, we've developed an SOP. But we just didn't develop one. We actually developed 3. So you'll see there's national, provincial and territory association level, and local team level SOPs. So that for every phase of the NSOC, we have a set of SOPs for each level. So whether that's the SARVAC level, whether that's your province or territory, whether you're coming in through SARSAV or OSARVA or an LSAR today, and then also from your local team. So what are the roles and responsibilities of those at any point within the HWF deployment? I'm going to pause our presentation here for a minute, and I'm going to share a video with you all that speaks to our mental wellness program. Just break up the PowerPoint here a little bit.
Due to the nature of your work as a SARVAC humanitarian workforce responder, you are more likely to experience a critical incident compared to the general public. A critical incident could include events such as a body recovery, the death, injury, or close call of a peer, a response involving a child, or simply the amount of time spent on the front lines. These types of events have the possibility to create emotional trauma that might be difficult to cope with. This is known as critical incident stress. It's important to be able to recognize the signs and symptoms of critical incident stress. They can be broken down into 4 categories: physical, behavioral, cognitive, and emotional. Symptoms could include but are not limited to fatigue, rapid heart rate, increased drug or alcohol consumption, confusion, grief, and loss of emotional control. To help our responders cope with signs and symptoms of critical incident stress, SARVAC has developed a mental wellness program. Our mental wellness program is a comprehensive program designed to mitigate and reduce psychological distress associated with a critical incident through pre-crisis education, crisis intervention techniques, and post-incident assistance. SARVAC's mental wellness program has 6 pillars to assist HWF responders in maintaining and augmenting their mental health. Let's take a look at each of these in a bit more detail and explore how SARVAC is addressing each pillar. The first pillar of the mental wellness program is pre-incident education. This includes educating yourself on critical incident stress prior to an operation. This preparation aims to build resiliency and help you understand how to address critical incident stress in the field. To prepare for a SARVAC HWF response, we strongly recommend taking Mental Health Awareness for First Responders and reviewing the Critical Incident Stress Management training courses offered on CPKN. SARVAC has also created 3 operational guidance documents that explain how to address critical incident stress before, during, or after a response. It's important to review these documents along with the resources made available on our website. The next pillar is mental health disengagement. During large-scale disasters, it's important for you to be able to mentally disengage from your active duties. You can do this by resting and fueling your body with food, practicing stress management techniques, and talking with peers solely about facts of the incident. One goal of our mental wellness program is to develop a fact sheet on different ways you can mentally disengage from a SARVAC HWF response. Next, we have individual crisis intervention. One-on-one interventions have been shown to be very effective for immediate stress relief. While we cannot provide counseling services, SARVAC has a dedicated peer mental wellness team trained to provide one-on-one interventions when necessary. The fourth pillar of our mental wellness program is a group crisis intervention option. Prior to the end of an operation, you will attend an on-site debrief which will include a component to remind responders to be mindful of their feelings and remind them of the resources available to them if they needed. If needed, HWF responders will have the option to attend a group crisis intervention led by the trained peer mental wellness team. The goal of the group crisis intervention is to mitigate the impact of a critical incident by sharing your thoughts and reactions to the incident with your peers. Please note that this type of intervention is optional. The fifth pillar of our mental wellness program is family crisis intervention techniques. The family of first responders act as a great support system. However, it's important to make sure that our families are also supported during this time. This ties in with the last pillar, which is follow-up and referrals. SARVAC has created a list of resources available to first responders, as well as their families and loved ones. These resources include peer support helplines, crisis lines, counseling options, resiliency building tools, and more. To view the list of resources, please visit our website. We've mentioned the peer mental wellness team quite a few times, and you may have some questions like, who is on the team? How can they help me? And how do I contact them? Well, first off, the peer mental wellness team is made up of SARVAC HWF responders just like you. SARVAC has designed its mental wellness program following guidelines from the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation. This organization recommends 2 core courses to be able to provide individual and group crisis intervention. Individuals on the team will need to take these 2 courses. The first course is Assisting Individuals in Crisis, which teaches participants one-on-one crisis intervention techniques in various fields including disaster response. It's important to note that crisis intervention is not psychotherapy. This course will allow SARVAC's peer mental wellness team to provide one-on-one crisis intervention services to HWF responders. The second course, Group Crisis Intervention teaches participants about the wide range of crisis intervention services and how to apply them. SARVAC's peer mental wellness team will be able to provide various services for HWF responders like one-on-one peer support interventions, group crisis interventions, and information on available resources. To request any of these services, or simply ask any questions about our mental wellness program and team, please email or call our mental wellness coordinator.
All right, that's a bit more of a comprehensive background or look into our newly developed mental wellness program. And certainly more information can be found there as well on our website when we share that a little later. Moving into some sort of the logistics piece, and this was, what I would say, almost as comprehensive as the SOPs in phase 2. This was a fairly comprehensive piece that we developed in phase 2 of our humanitarian workforce program. And it took a lot of effort to put together. The logistics support plan accounts for the transportation, food and accommodations, equipment requirements, and also even our operational communication side for any particular deployment. The logistics support plan, which again can be accessed online, is pretty comprehensive, but it walks through all the needs and phases, whether it's ground transportation, air transportation, whether it's for passenger or cargo, food and accommodations, sort of what we have and what we would need. And I will say that we exercised this particular logistics support plan and we fine-tuned it before we published it. It was January of 2023. We got together and we tabletop exercised it. And we walked through a deployment of 200 volunteers into an urban setting at the time, or a suburban setting, I would say. But I will say, when it comes to logistics capability, currently SARVAC has the capability to self-sustain about 50 to 75 volunteers in a remote environment. And I would say about 100 to 150 in an urban setting if no accommodations were able to be provided. So we could self-contain ourselves just on the equipment we have available. That's not to mention if we had a gymnasium we could go to, or hotel rooms or whatever. So there's been a lot of work done here. A lot of it is hard to show and see, but you'll see the work that's behind the scenes. You'll see when it comes to a deployment, because it's so comprehensive. All these ready kits that you'll see here at the bottom, or in one of the individual pictures there, there's 220 of those ready to hand out to responders in case equipment is needed and whatnot. And that's your 24-hour pack. Basically, you're good to go when you got that. Put it on your back, and you got everything that you would need. We had to develop a bit of a data management system and call out survey functionality when it come to particular deployments. And what we've have been utilizing is the ISRI ArcGIS platform, or Survey 123. And some of you may have responded to a call out just recently, and if not, you may be seeing it in your inbox in the very near future. But or I should say, not a call out. You may have seen a survey or a query, basically, not an actual survey, or not a call out survey. Sorry, there's no call out, no tasking, or no request for assistance at this time. But the way surveys are done is SARVAC doesn't send them directly to any particular individual or GSAR member. Once a request for assistance is received and the work is done on the back end, When it gets to the notification stage, the survey will actually be sent to the province and territory association rep or the SARVAC rep, who shares it with their teams, and then who shares it with their volunteers. So now some utilizing data management software of their own. Every province and territory is a little different when it comes to how they're operating data management systems within their associations. And sometimes it's shared out through those means as well. So, but again, SARVAC doesn't share it with the volunteers. We share it with the board of directors, who then share it with their teams and their SAR members. And I spoke this a little earlier, but like unlike a SAR incident, these aren't urgent, I guess, requests in that it takes time for deployments to happen. When we're responding 50 to 100 people from one area to another or to remote locations, the timelines are longer than if they were for a typical SAR calling. And sometimes instrument requirements are a bit vague. So we may not have all the information up front, but know that we're collecting that, and we'll be sharing that with you as it becomes available. So once we get who's able to respond, then they will go into sort of a CRM or client management system, and then regular information updates will be sent through that sense. So once you fill out the survey, we have your information, and we will keep you updated as the deployment unfolds. Our training and exercise program started off, I would say, a little bit more small scale. We we partnered, I should say, with the Canadian Police Knowledge Network, or CPKN, to develop a online training platform that hosts several free courses. In particular, we engaged in the Indigenous Awareness course, which seems to be the national standard when it comes to Indigenous Awareness courses. There's other free courses on there as well, and there's also pay for use courses. So they're not required for individuals or GSAR members to take before deployment. However, they are there, and they host an awful lot of information that's relevant to our work within the emergency management field. And certainly we just wanted to make it available for those who would like to go on and learn more about information within the field of emergency management, GSAR. Some of them, again, a lot of it comes from a policing background, but whether it's mental wellness, whether it's Indigenous awareness, all those things affect us, whether you're GSAR or police background. Additionally to that, we developed a 3-year training and exercising program, I should say. We just hosted in March past the first train-to-trainer session, a national level train-to-trainer session. We had about 26 participants, 2 individuals from each province and territory, and we'll be hosting another one of those later this fall, and then additionally another one, or a final one, I should say, in the last fiscal, so 2025, 2026. So all those dates and locations are to be determined. In addition to those train-to-trainers, so the purpose behind those is to train what we're calling them as champions, to be able to go out and deliver the messaging of the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program. What is it? Where's the guidance document? How can I learn more about it? What is the training program that's set out? Where can we access this stuff, information about the CISM, or the mental wellness program and whatnot. That is the purpose there, is that they can champion this program and go on and spread the information within their respective provincial and territorial associations. In addition to that, we also have money allotted for provincial-led training and exercising, and that's going to start this year. So you'll start to see some information about that. It may be a little different depending on the province or territory, where you reside from or are part of, but you will start to see an increase in activity there when it comes to training and exercising. And then finally, in addition to an actual exercising program package, which will be developed and made available to all of our members that are out there, where they can actually go and practice in-house exercising within their teams, the different parts of the NSOC, or within their association. They'll be able to select what they want to do, whether it's a tabletop or whatnot. In addition to that, we're holding a national level exercise in the Ottawa region in the first weekend of October. Actually, is I think it's the 5th of October, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. So, very excited to that. That is the final piece where we're bringing people in from across the country to exercise all 10 phases of the NSOC. Now, some of the phases will be done in a warm start. However, we will be exercising all those 10 phases either prior to or in person in Ottawa. So very excited to run through that. Another important piece that we've developed and recognize within the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program is a priority around building relations with Indigenous communities. And one way we've done that is by developing a terms of reference for the IPAC, so the Indigenous Persons Advisory Circle. And the purpose behind this is to advise and educate not only the leadership of the program team, but also to advise and educate the board of directors of SARVAC on other items that may not be related to the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program. So the IPAC will actually be all-inclusive to GSAR activity, whether it's through the prevention, whether it's through the standards and certification, or through the Humanitarian Workforce Program. As I noted earlier in the previous slide, the big piece for us with the CPKM portal was access into that free Indigenous awareness training for our HWF responders. And we're also developing specific operational guidance and education for incident response. So for each of these communities, so that when we have a deployment, we actually have a guidance document that would be sent out to our responders ahead of time, going over some of the information with regards to the community and the whether the First Nation, Métis, or Inuit community that we are about to deploy on, and basically how can we represent ourselves and how do we be respectful of the Indigenous people there, their culture, and their needs and wants. We've also developed instance-specific service agreements, and these are customizable. So depending on what deployment we can get, we can quickly go in, update the service agreement, and quickly send it off to the authority having jurisdiction to be signed, and then for deployment to follow. These agreements are important to sort of lay out what it is the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program intends to provide to the authority having jurisdiction, and then also what we ask for the AHJ to provide SARVAC as well. So it's a bit of a reciprocal document. Finally, a stakeholder engagement strategy was developed also in phase 2, and that's a critical piece, as sort of an ongoing effort. We need to maintain partnership and communications with the government of Canada at all levels, and also stakeholders that are involved within the Humanitarian Workforce Program. Excuse me. So we've developed this engagement strategy, and that was broken down sort of for the program level, for the office level, and the executive, and also the board of directors, and lay out sort of who should be speaking to who, and what sort of forms of communications can we have, what are most effective, and how do we continue that engagement ongoing, whether it be with First Nations, Métis, or Inuit government organizations or other NGOs that are in the sector. So at this point, what I'm going to do is head over to and launch. This is actually very exciting for me, as this will be the first launch of the SARVAC HWF website, which just went live just a couple of days ago. And if I could just get Janelle or Scott just to, it seems everything's working here on my end. You can see the website good.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect, thank you. So first I wanted to bring you to the SARVAC website. And, you know, for anybody who can't remember, the URL for the new SARVAC HWF website is just sarvac.hwf.ca. However, if you can't recall that, certainly get to the sarvac.ca, and right over here on the top tab on the right-hand side, you'll see the SARVAC HWF tab, and that'll bring you right to our brand new site. So I hope you are all as excited as I am to be showing you this. Thanks, Lawrence, for throwing that in the chat. And what I wanted to do is just sort of walk through this live, give you a little bit of an overview of the website itself, and sort of point you in the direction as to where you can find things, you know, that may be of interest to you. So the top navigation here, you'll see a few tabs. And I will say things are pretty easy to find, whether it's on the home page or through these tabs. First, you know, you'll see the About tab, whether it's information around our governance structure, our GSAR, or our NSOC documentation, and then also information about the Indigenous People Advisory Circle, our operations. That's, you know, everything from our SOPs, our MRGs, our mission ready groups, logistics, communications, equipment, anything that's related to the operations itself will be there under that tab. And then there's also responder resources. So what resources we have for responders, whether it's protection, the mental wellness program, caring for you or your family, and then also speaks a little bit about to the training, and we'll get into some of these as we go along. Additionally, we have listed our partners, whether they're the NGOs, Public Safety Canada, and also a listing for the authorities having jurisdiction. Finally, here, the last tab is the Contact Us tab. And I will say, for any inquiries that you do have, this is the best way to get a hold of us. Just come in here, pop in your name, email address, and type us a message, and we'll get this instantly and back to you, whatever, with an answer to your question or your inquiry as soon as possible. So as we scroll through here, there's a little bit of an overview here about SARVAC. If someone ends up here and doesn't really understand what SARVAC is, learn more button will take you back to our main homepage on the SARVAC site. And then we get into a little bit more about the overview of the Humanitarian Workforce Program. We shared a couple of videos here today. And if you see here, this Learn More tab, it'll actually take you to our YouTube page where we have right now 6 different videos. Well, there's 3 different videos, both French and English, posted. Whether it's one is a bit of an overview, the one we shared earlier, this 2-minute one at the beginning of the presentation. This 13-minute one basically takes this presentation and compresses it down to about 13 minutes. It's a a lot quicker than me and very comprehensive. And then our last one there is the mental wellness video, which we just showed. Within these particular tabs that you see here, you're going to navigate to all of the tab items that you see up here. So if you see for governance, their operations, responder resources, all this will be accessible here. Some additional information on the program, and then you know, again, some links that again get you to the same places where all these tabs will get you. So quickly, if we just head to governance, we'll see here the GSAR document is accessible in a printable version. Information on our organizational chart, and what we've developed is basically we designed the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program to respond in two tiers. So it's through the National Incident Support Team. They're the overhead. They're the ones that are working remotely to support the boots on the ground, and the boots on the ground are this mission incident support team. And that's managed by a response coordinator. So that's, the response coordinator is pretty much the ops section manager. And they're looking after everybody on the ground. And when we get down to the MRGs, you'll see that there's MRG supervisors who are responsible for team leaders who are responsible for teams. So again, not too much different than what you're used to, but a little bit of an overview there. I don't want to go into that too much, as we can get into the weeds a little bit. But the last piece I wanted to show you there on the under the governance piece is just our layout for the Indigenous People Advisory Circle, and sort of a bit of a background there, and what are the goals and principles behind that particular committee. Excuse me as I sort of flow through some of this stuff. But in the operations here, you'll see access to the NSOC, responder resource, a link out to ICS Canada for more information on incident command systems, our standard operating procedures. And I will note that we're accessing this now from the public domain. Okay, so there is a public and a responder side to the website. So if we go to our standard operating procedures, you'll see right now that you're just going to get an overview of the national, provincial, and local level standard operating procedures. And I just ask that you stay tuned. I'll log in, and then you'll see sort of what the difference is. Again, the MRGs, you'll see them all listed here, but all you'll see is a bit of a descriptor that describes what each MRG, mission ready group consists of, and what's the overview of that MRG. Lastly, it gets into the operation communications, logistics, and equipment. And if I can quickly go through those, on the public side, you'll see a communication plan, which is just a 2-pager. I will note this is about, I think, 30 or 60 pages long. The full version is on the responder side. But again, just gives you a bit of an overview of what our goals and capabilities are when it comes to our operation communications plan. Logistics wise, just a quick little overview on the public side, and then the equipment. There's a breakdown of what are in the ready kits, and actually item by item, what's all included in this particular kit. These other functions, again, take you to different parts of the website. The responder side talks a bit more about what we provide by way of health and safety and insurance, and then also information on our mental wellness program. Oh, I kicked over to our English side. So in the video there, you'll see that there's actually no operational guidance here, because this is the public side, but here you'll see where all the support information, so links out to these particular supports and phone numbers for those who have them. And again, this is for not just you as responders, but also for your families as well. So for anybody looking to gain access, if you just hit login, oh boy. If you hit login and scroll to the bottom, fill out email address, first name, last name. You can choose your country, age, province, affiliated STAR team, a username and password, and submit that. And we'll access it here on our end and provide access. Quickly going to jump in and just quickly show you, if I go to our mental wellness program, where you've seen first the operational guidance wasn't there. Now you can see pre-incident, incident specific, and post-incident guidance documents is there. So you can go in, click through, and reference any of that documentation. Additionally, under the SOPs, as you noted, they weren't listed. This page looks a little different now. So you can tab between national, provincial, and territorial or local level, and you'll see all 10 phases listed here. And you can just click the SOP, and here is phase 1 notification SOP for national level standard operating procedures. There's lots and lots of information here. The last one I'll show you before ending this sort of tutorial is the mission ready groups. And as you click now, if you want to click the MRG for incident management, it gives you that overview, some of the components, and then actually a breakdown of the capabilities of that particular MRG. So I think that about wraps up our overview for the website, and we'll head back to our PowerPoint for question and answer period. I hope that provides pretty quick and brief overview, but again, the importance of this information session was to provide you the information on the new website, and on there you can find all the information, all the documentation we put together. Please log on, register for access, and you'll find that specific guidance documentation. And again, if you have questions, comments, concerns, go to that contact us form, fill it out. That'll come straight to us, and certainly we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So, Scott, I think that's it for me. We'll open up the Q&A.
Thanks, Paul. And thank you, Janelle, for the HWF background and program overview. We have a few questions queued up for either the two of you. Our first one from Dawn is, what type of insurance coverage provided, such as liability, medical, loss wages, line of duty, death, etc., is perhaps covered?
I can certainly take that one, Scott. This is a great question. Currently, right now, SARVAC's national policy is a commercial general policy, and also an AD&D, so an accidental death and dismemberment. Those policies remain in place, whether for search and rescue or for a HWF response. We are in a bit of a transition, I will say, when it comes to additional coverages. So some provinces and territories, when they respond, they receive WCB coverage from their AHJ, which covers them specific. The main piece there is that long-term disability piece. So protection beyond if they, become injured on a deployment and are unable to work afterwards. How do they recoup those lost wages costs? That's the big piece that we're seeing as a concern from the volunteers. And we are in communications with we are in and have been for some while, communications with our insurance provider, Northern Insurance Broker, to put in place a long-term disability policy. It's been difficult. It's not something that you can just buy off the shelf for a volunteer. So how do you provide a policy for a volunteer who's not making a wage at their deployment, but yet you're trying to cover them for a wage that they're making at a job that they just left? So it's a complex issue. We recognize the issue and we are working on it. We just received some word back that we have received basically a preliminary offer on what a policy looks like for that long-term disability. So I'm hopeful that within the next couple of months here, we can see about getting that put in place so that it's there when we need it at a moment's notice. However, additionally to that, what we've seen in some provinces and territories is that their WCB coverage is being provided by their authority having jurisdiction. So if they are being taxed by the province or territory, their AHJ is allowing them for their policy to transfer to wherever the response is. So if we've seen in the Nova Scotia deployment, is that both Newfoundland, or not both, but Newfoundland, PEI, and Nova and New Brunswick, their AHJs allowed their GSAR members, they allowed their policy to follow them into Nova Scotia for potential deployment there. So it's really nice to see that, and it's really nice that those provinces that do provide that are allowing that that policy to transfer. So very complex question. Could probably go on for a long time, but I hope that provides you know, a response to the question that's appropriate.
Thanks for the question, Don. Next, we have a bit of a double question from Denis or Dennis, who's asking, do we need workplace agreements to be able to respond to national events? Is this a requirement? In addition, Denis is also asking if we are responding to an event, are we wearing our team jackets or SARVAC jackets provided?
I would need a little more context around the first question, Scott, and maybe I didn't catch it all. Workplace requirements, I never caught it all, and I don't know if it's clear to me. However, when it comes to equipment, what we have done is that obviously we all have equipment that we use on SAR calls that we're more comfortable with. We don't need to replace that. Certainly, we would suggest that volunteers continue to wear whatever it is comfortable and that they like best. But what we've developed is a, as you might have seen in some of the images, is a vest, an outer vest, and or poncho to be able to go over whatever it is you're wearing. It's just outerwear, and it makes you identifiable. It makes everybody look the same, identifiable to the public, and respective of whatever team you're coming from. Again, that visual there is now that you are part of a larger team.
So with regards to the employer question as well, that varies really widely. It's going to depend a little bit on your employer, but what we do have as a resource is we do have letters that we can give you on behalf of SARVAC for you to take to your employer to say, this is a search and rescue volunteer. This member is a part of a national association. And with that letter, if it is something that is feasible within your own employment, we have that as a resource. So if you need that, you can always reach out and just let us know. Some employers are great and say, go ahead, we'll support you in whatever, and some may not, but that's really just going to depend on your workplace. But SARVAC's happy to supply the paperwork side as far as saying, yes, this is a legitimate call out, and yes, this is what it is for. So we're happy to support you on that side of it. But as far as the specifics there as to whether or not you'd be paid while you're gone, anything like that, that we can't tell you from our end.
Okay, thank you again, Denis, for the questions. Next, we have a question from Colin concerning sign up for login on the HWF site, which I know there was a bit more in depth into the process of registration, but can we sign up for login for the site? Is that how we will hear about upcoming Train the Trainer, local training, news, etc.? We had a response from Peter, who's also on the HWF team. As a GSAR volunteer associated with the Canadian team, you can sign up on the site for log-on credentials. Just curious if there's any more information that we can provide Colin with concerning.
Yeah, certainly, certainly, Scott. My phone is going mad here. I see you're all registering, so thank you for that. We'll get to those in short order, but yes, any GSAR volunteer can go on, log on and register. And once their registration is confirmed, you'll have access to the back end. Certainly, I would say the SARVAC HWF website is sort of a subset of the SARVAC site. So any new, like the SARVAC side of the site has all the news and events piece there. Certainly, if you aren't already connected to our socials, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn or whatnot, Scott, you could speak more to that, but certainly, I would, if you don't like us or follow us on any of those channels, whether it be YouTube even, I would certainly do so, and any updates and information that we have will be sent out there. Any large updates with regards to program was, they're all sent through the board of directors and distributed through the associations that way.
Yeah, so just to build on that too, Colin, specific to your question about the train the trainer, for example, that would come through the board of directors. So that would come through your association. However, your association is distributing that information. A lot of times it's going to the teams in the province or territory and then down to the members. So usually via email for that, for something that's a little more specific. That type of thing, like a call for a new batch of train the trainers, for example, wouldn't necessarily be on just our socials, but we would be getting the word out through the board of directors. So that would be through your own association.
Okay, thank you, Colin, for your question. Just to bounce back, Anthony is asking about requirements. Anthony, just to clarify, are you interested in requirements surrounding Denise' question of, do we need workplace agreements to be able to respond to a national event? Feel free to ask if you would like more clarity on that. Correct. That is the question is surrounding the requirements specific to workplace agreements to be able to respond to a national event.
Are you looking for, if you're looking for the employer side, again, that would vary depending on your employer. If we're looking at the actual national call-out structure, absolutely, we'll have all of the paperwork in place from our end. So we'll have that agreement signed with the tasking agency. So usually in this case, what we're looking at is the federal government will be calling us out through the Government Operations Center. And that would be kind of our official call out. It would come to SARVAC. So it's not coming directly to a team as if it was a police agency calling you up for a search. But it would be a call out nationally, since you're a part of SARVAC nationally. If you are a part of any of our 300 teams, then that kind of covers you for that as well. So if you have some of these kind of steps and agreements in place for a search locally, regionally, whatever it happens to be, then the steps would be the same because SARVAC is now doing the call itself. The only thing that would be potentially different is the length of deployment, right? So that would be where if you need our support, if you need a specific letter, we do have one already ready to go that can be fine-tuned easily for any type of situation. But if you say, can I please get a letter of support to prove that I am looking at this deployment for the next week or a couple weeks or whatever it happens to be, then SARVAC can help with that side.
I'll add there as well, Janelle. I had to go back and read the question just to get clarification. But additionally to that, as Janelle noted earlier, we have those letters for the employers. But additionally, anybody responding would also have to sign a responder agreement. So it's the same, a little different. We have, I guess, titled a little different, and that's what I was getting messed up in. But yes, we do have agreements in place that sort of clarify the roles and responsibilities of a responder, and they would be collected before deployment was basically authorized for a particular individual.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Janelle. Anthony, I hope that answers your question from the sounds of it. It does. Next, we only have a short period of time for a few more questions, but our next one is how long do we have funding and what happens after?
currently?
Funding in general or funding towards humanitarian workforce? There's a lot of different things going on for SARVAC on a consistent basis. So right now we have funds that are being used to the humanitarian workforce program itself. We also are just in the process of, like I said, increasing our capabilities for even this year that are being supported by the government so that we're able to deploy and do what we're hoping to do, which is to help as many Canadians as possible when some of these emergencies are hitting. On the flip side of that, I'm sure you also heard the announcement that the tax benefit has increased, doubled actually for our volunteers. So that's something that is starting next year with the tax season, and that'll be continuing as well. As far as the SARVAC side, it's something that we're always actively looking at. What can we do to make sure that we're able to sustain and maintain what we're working on? So those are things that are always top of mind when it comes to being sure that we're able to continue the types of responses that we want to be able to provide.
Thanks, Janelle. I believe the question specifically, as we're getting a bit more clarity from our back end, is specific to funding for the humanitarian workforce program.
So that's been coming in what we call phases. The first phase was about 6 months. Phase 2 was, I believe, phase 1 was actually extended a year, and then phase 2 was a year, and now we're in 3 years worth of funding. So the contribution agreement that we are in at the moment will end March 31st of 2026. But that's not to say that everything stops. That's just the capacity building funds that we're receiving right now through what we call phase 3. But as Janelle just spoke to, there's many other funding streams and the ability to sustain the program ongoing. But the current capacity building funds right now are earmarked until March 31st, 2026.
Great, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Janelle. We only have enough time for, I'd say, 1 or 2 more questions. Otherwise, feel free to submit any questions via the contact us links that have been provided in the chat. We have one more from Dawn, who's asking, how are you determining physical/medical capabilities of the individuals to do these deployments?
Dawn, I would say that is, it's the same as your team for any call outs. So all of the credentials, your certifications, everything that's tracked at your team level or within your provincial association or territorial association, that's where that information is coming from. So if we have members who are ready, able to go on any type of call out. So if it's a search and you're out and you're going to be out for 12-hour periods at a time, those same members, those same certifications are what we're looking for when we're looking at the national calls as well. So if there's any issues or if there's any certifications that have lapsed, those are not considered to be active members for a national call out. So it's just like any other search call out that you would have within your team.
Just to add on to that, Don, I would say that as I spoke to earlier, the call out comes from sort of top down, but the responses come bottom up. And when you respond to the survey, the associations have access to the survey responses to see who is responding, and then they will also work with their teams in to vet the respondents to the survey. So they will vet and confirm with our National Incident Support Team as to who is certainly capable of deploying. If any issues you know, all the things that you spoke to there, Don. They will vet any of those concerns that may come up depending on the individual or the situation or what the tasking may be.
Awesome. Well, I believe that is all the questions that we have in the queue for today's session. Alternatively, please feel free to, again, submit any questions via our contact us pages. In which case, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this Saturday. And coincidentally, the end of Emergency Preparedness Week, and kind of wrap up by saying we'd like to thank the emergency management experts, first responders, search and rescue, and frontline workers for your remarkable service. And this group of strong individuals not only respond to everyday emergencies, but have been at the forefront of responding to challenging climate disaster events, which continue to increase in frequency and severity. You are our community's heroes as you work to ensure our safety. Alternatively, Janelle, Paul, if you have anything to kind of wrap up on.
Great, thank you, Scott. For everyone who was able to spend some time with us today, thank you very much. I know on a Saturday, on a beautiful weekend, when it's Mother's Day, especially tomorrow as well, I appreciate your time. But the more that we can keep the messaging consistent, if you are talking to your teammates, your associations, anything along those lines, if you have questions, that's what SARVAC is here for. I know not everyone has their cameras on today, but I will tell you from personal experience that the group of people that is working on the Humanitarian Workforce Program behind the scenes is the most fantastic and skilled, and they're very adept at what they do. And when we're looking at all of the stuff that has gone into, not just in the website itself, but you saw all of those documents, those have been a really long time and a lot of time and energy kind of in behind the scenes that's gone into putting those together. So there's a huge amount of effort that's already gone into our responses, making sure that we're going to be ready when these events are hitting. And now it's a matter of making sure all of our members across Canada are aware, so that when we're called to assist, we know we can come together, we know we can integrate, we know that we can work together with different teams from different parts of the country all at the same time. And it'll be showing that we can do that. So we're looking for, we don't want emergencies to happen, but we're looking forward to putting all of this into practice this year, and looking forward to seeing how things roll out. So thank you again for your time today. And as has been mentioned many times, if you do have further questions, please use the contact us forms on the website. Either website, you'll be able to find ways to get a hold of SARVAC, and that's the best way to do so. Thank you very much, everyone.